Let's turn all the lights on, 'cause we need to see the crowd going crazy.
So, hello everybody. ¿Inglés o Spanish?
Mejor en inglés, pero mezcla está bien o
¿Spanglish?
Spanglish es genial.
Ok, perfecto. Hello everybody, soy Alex Flores y estoy con Trisha Ziff. ¿Lo dije bien?
Sí, muy bien.
Ella es la directora de El hombre que vio demasiado, The Man Who Saw Too Much.
Wilde had a great line that you can tell a country by its prisons. I think in many ways you can tell also a country by its news and their approach to news.
When people come and look at it close, the first thing they do is they go, oh my God, that's people's natural reaction to pictures like this.
And I had to say, this is one of my top documentaries in the Hotdocs this year. It's absolutely amazing. I want to ask you, how did you choose this subject?
Maybe it chose me. I've known Enrique Metinides for many years. I come from a curatorial background. It's not my first film, it's my third film that involves photography. But my history is as a curator of photography. So the first encounters I had with Enrique was in relation to curating a major exhibition of his work for a festival of photography in France, in Arles, in the south of France. So that's how I really got to know him. From there, I did a book in the US with Aperture and continued to work with him on exhibitions. And then finally, about 3 years ago, I began working with him on this film.
And if you get to see the film, you're gonna see how you kind of like make scenarios with his with his photos, and he walked this in a scene where he's walking around the photo. It's like a crime.
We took him back to the scene of the accidents in a way, because the film I hope has many layers, and one of the layers is that it's a portrait of Mexico City through his eyes. So we took him back to various locations where he had photographed. And we chose locations either where a lot of things happened, or where his most iconic photographs were taken. So it was a combination of those two things that made me choose the locations. So in a way, what you're referring to is one picture where he's in the Torre Latino, which is the highest building in Mexico City, or was, and where there were a lot of suicides. So we went back to a scene of a suicide. Another place we went to was Tlatelolco, which was the scene of the murder of the students in '68, but it was also where one of the buildings came down during the earthquake. And what you see in his photograph is a much more mundane image of an accident with a truck and a car, but it's in a place that is iconic and sort of reverberates in a history of Mexico City. And then we went to one other place where he took possibly his most famous photograph, La Rubia, which is a crossing which is just super dangerous to cross. Where we were filming, it was very strange to be in those places. It was almost like going to the scene of the crime. It had a strange sensibility. It was almost like the ghosts of the people in his photographs were with us while we were filming.
Wow, and I'm pretty sure they probably were. One of the things that I was curious about the movie is how long you spent with him in choosing photographs and thinking about taking him back to the past when he took the picture, because he probably has like thousands of photographs.
Thousands. Well, I already had this long relationship with him. I knew his body of work fairly well, even though today he still surprises me and shows me things that he's never shown me before, sometimes amazing images. So, but I did have this long history with him before I ever got involved in making a film with him, and I think that counts. I think that matters. I think it created a level of trust between us. And I had an understanding of my character which was quite deep, because I had seen him in many different guises over the years, knew his family, his grandchildren. I wouldn't say he's my friend, he's a character that I encounter through work, but I think through those years, a deep respect grew, which I hope would be mutual.
What was your biggest challenge to do this project?
I think there were literal challenges, and I think there were emotional challenges. I mean, the literal challenges were that I didn't want to make a film that was just about Enrique. I wanted to take a film right up to today, into the modernity of these kind of images that exist in Mexico today, that confront us at every traffic light with the newspaper sellers of the tabloids. It was very important to me that the film took that arc into modernity. And so to win the trust of the contemporary photographers was a challenge. I'm English originally, I'm a woman, and I wanted to spend all these nights with these young guys who go out night after night photographing the murder and the violence in the city. It was a challenge to win their respect, that to allow me to be a fly on the wall in their worlds. But also it was a challenge to me emotionally to become a witness to those events. I won't forget it. On our first night out filming, we witnessed a triple homicide. And it's not that the cadavers that were far away behind the police lines really impacted me psychologically, they didn't. But the cry of the mother when she realizes that's her son over there covered in a sheet, that cry was like a wild animal in pain. And I will carry those sounds with me because they take you to a different place, to not this place of the sensationalism of the image, but the impact, the human suffering that is the side effect, the fallout of what is often really senseless violence. It's different to the crime of the state against the students, against Ayotzinapa, for example. That's a very different kind of crime. These are crimes between gang members over turf, over whatever. And it has a very different quality to it than the state crime and murder. My film isn't really about that. It touches on it because you cannot not go there. And at the end of the film, Ruben Espinosa was murdered, a photographer who worked with the photographers that I worked with at night, and we honor him at the end of our film. But our film goes in a different direction, really. The truth is that all photographers today who photograph a reality have become vulnerable because there is an investment by the state that we don't see to keep from us a reality and to have this perception that there is a normality.
Well, and that's what I saw in your documentary. And in general, I mean, documentaries show real issues, real life, real things happening in life. That's what sometimes I see in a lot of documentaries. And your documentary, by you touching all these photographers, the photographer, they photograph crime. It is something that it takes us to imagination and see all the suffering behind that picture, right? I mean, one thing from your movie that I won't forget, that was when that kid, 9 years old, took a picture of a head. And I was in shock. I mean, I saw that head hanging and he took a picture of it, and then you described that he actually ran after he took the picture. And all I saw was the head taken, photographed by this photographer.
But in a way, you have to ask yourself with that narrative, I mean, Metinides was 9 years old when he took that picture in a morgue. I think there's so many questions you have to ask around it. I mean, this kind of sick guy in the morgue who holds up a head like that to frighten a child, the perversity of that act, the fact that Metinides didn't run, he took a picture before he ran, aged 9, and where was his mother? You know, I mean, I have a son. The idea that your child would be wandering around a morgue, age 9. I mean, I don't think a lot of things we can explain through cultural difference.
Right.
And there's some things that I think just go beyond that. I think they are beyond explanation in some ways. I mean, people talk about the relationship in Mexico to Dia de los Muertos, how people in Mexico deal with death differently. You know, yes, culturally, the Day of the Dead is this extraordinary event. People who live long, natural lives and get to the end of a natural life are celebrated through the Day of the Dead, but I don't think people in Mexico deal with horror and tragedy and state murder and oppression any differently to anyone else. I don't think there's anything specific to Mexico that makes that Mexican in that way. I mean, even the cover-ups, you know, we're not the only country where the state covers up crimes against humanity. I mean, wouldn't it be great if it was only Mexico? Unfortunately, it's not. The truth is, it's that also genocide isn't. It doesn't only take place in Mexico. So I think this notion of Mexicanidad in relation to death. Well, in my experience in making this film, I think the cry of that mother that I heard is no different to a cry of a mother in East London or Bosnia or Namibia. I think it's inherent somehow. Right. And I think that's precisely why it touches you, you know?
Right. So which other day your documentary is going to be on?
Maybe I need to pick up a card. Okay, which other day is my Well, today is the premiere of the film. It's at 3:30 in Hart House. Then on Thursday it's at 9:45. So then you can watch the movie and have nightmares afterwards. You know, go to bed thinking about my film. It's in the TIFF Bell Lightbox at 9:45. And on Saturday I won't be here, unfortunately. I'll be at these other 2 screenings. It's at 12:45 at Hart House again.
Okay.
So
Amazing.
three times it's on.
Okay, friends, there are here all the information on the screen, so you can go and check The Man Who Saw Too Much. It's an amazing documentary. By the way, black and white is an amazing technique. Did you decide to do it in black and white? The whole, it was something
Well,
that
his photographs are in black and white.
Black and white, okay.
And that's because the photographs are in black and white. So,
yeah.
No, so the film moves between the cinema, the examples of cinema, because Metinides was really influenced by cinema. He didn't go to film school, to photography art school. He went to the movies as a child. That's what impacted him. So those films are in black and white because they reflect the era of his photographs, and his photographs themselves, well, the ones that you see in black and white are in black and white.
And now, as a person, why you choose a subject to do this film under the category of crime photography? It was something that you saw, or the opportunity?
I think he's an amazing photographer, and I think, I've spent my life working with extraordinary photographers. I'm very lucky. My longest relationship with a photographer is actually with Metinides. Clearly, I'm attracted to the dark side. There's obviously, I don't know, there's another theory I have, because I would describe myself as a feminist filmmaker. I'm very conscious of my feminism. I feel I'm a politically conscious person, articulate about feminism, and a history in the women's movement of over 30 years. So why would I make a film about an elderly male photographer who photographs acts of violence or the accident. And that for me is something that it's a really serious question for me, because it kind of is a little contradictory. I can say, well, because he's an extraordinary photographer. But actually, as a woman, I think we as women understand objectification. We spend our lives dealing with how people perceive us as women, with that eye that objectifies us, with the gaze of the other on us as women. And I think, in a way, Metinides does that too. So I think as a feminist, you do put yourself in the position of the victim in his photographs, because he transgresses, he crosses boundaries to take those images. And we live in a culture where we have a history of being understood through a parallel way of seeing. So I don't think it's a total contradiction that as a feminist I would be attracted to that subject. I think it's a bit subliminal, but when I reflect on it, I don't think it is so far away from being a theme that as a woman interests me, because I think it's a film about objectification and transgression, and that is something as women we address every day of our lives. So I think I bring to this subject maybe a perspective from the point of view as a woman filmmaker. Maybe a guy would have made a very different film to me.
Oh, this one was perfect. Excellent and perfect artistic. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for your time. Thank you.
And well, guys, there we go. Trisha Ziff, and go watch her documentary, The Man Who Saw Too Much, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Oscar Wilde had a great line that you can tell a country by its prisons. I think in many ways you can tell also a country by its news and their approach to news.
When people come and look at it close, the first thing they do is they go, oh my God, that's people's natural reaction to pictures like this.
Esta fue la primera cámara que tuve. Habían asesinado a una persona y cuando yo llegué a la delegación a saludar al Ministerio Público, me dice, ve a retratar a un cadáver que llegó. Yo tenía 9 años. Entonces yo de niño veía yo 30, 40 cadáveres diario.
If you think about photography and you think even on things seem nice, memories are always tender. His photographs are literally a birth of a bad memories.
En un solo rollo traía yo 8 casos diferentes.
These photographs are very real, but I don't feel as though they celebrate violence.
Hay veces que tomaba yo, por decir, 100 fotos en un día, al mes 3,000 al año, y luego 49 años.
He was basically doing a job, so he's not an art photographer.
En México sucede algo curioso.
Ese tipo de imágenes sí ayuda a vender mucho.
All of these people, they started off that day as normally as they would. This was all just the randomness of the universe, which connects them to you and me now today.